today's episode of the Gamer Girl Podcast, Elizabeth discusses her top 5 Dark-type Pokémon. Hey everybody, so today's episode I'm going to be talking about my top 5 Dark-type Pokémon. So quickly, I don't have any listener feedback to go over for today's episode. One thing I would greatly appreciate is if you guys started leaving more listener feedback for me to read, because I really enjoy reading it. Another thing I have to say is that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, if you listen on one of those platforms, please leave a 5-star rating if you're enjoying the podcast, because it helps out the show a ton. Another thing, if you're listening on YouTube, feel free to subscribe, because that also helps out the show a ton. And it'll help it pop up for other people to show, because for other people to listen to, watch. So, if you're listening on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star rating. And without further ado, I'm going to get into my top 5 Dark-type Pokemon. So, my first Dark-type Pokemon that I have, my number 5 is Absol, which is a pure Dark-type Pokemon. Absol does not have a normal evolution, but if you get an Absolite, you can Mega Evolve it into Mega Absol, which is basically Absol with wings and some extra little hair. Mega Absol first appeared in the Hoenn region, or Gen 3. It's Absol's Omega Ruby Dex entry says every time Absol appears before people, it is followed by a disaster such as an earthquake or a tidal wave. As a result, it came to be known as the Disaster Pokemon. Absol's Alpha Sapphire Dex entry says Absol has the ability to foretell the coming of natural disasters. It lives in a harsh, rugged mountain environment. This Pokemon very rarely ventures down from the mountains. Mega Absol's Ultra Moon Dex entry says it converts the energy from Mega Evolution into an intimidating aura. Faint-hearted people expire from shock at the sight of it. Mega Absol's Sun entry says when this Pokemon whips the wing-like fur on its back as though beating its wings, it sends an intimidating aura flying at its opponents. And then its Mega Absol's Moon entry talks about what you see on its back are not true wings, and this Pokemon isn't able to fly. Absol's Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl Dex entry says it senses coming disasters and appears before people only to warn them of impending danger. I really like Absol's overall design. It's also a Hoenn Pokemon, which, if you didn't know already, Hoenn was my first region, so I really like Hoenn Pokemon. So Absol is my number 5. My number 4 is Sharpedo. Sharpedo is a water dark type. It evolves from Carvana starting at level 30. You can Mega Evolve Sharpedo using a Sharpedo Knight. So that's cool. Sharpedo's Omega Ruby Dex entry says, nicknamed the Bully of the Sea, Sharpedo is widely feared. Its cruel fangs grow back immediately if they snap off. Just one of these Pokemon can thoroughly tear apart a super tanker. Also, one other thing real quick. Sharpedo originally appeared in the Hoenn region, so I really like that about it, too, because I really like Hoenn region. Sharpedo's Alpha Sapphire Dex entry says Sharpedo can swim at speeds of up to 75 miles per hour by jetting seawater out of its backside. This Pokemon's drawback is its inability to swim long distances. So basically, Sharpedo could be considered the cheetah of the sea because it can go super fast, but can't go super fast super far. Mega Sharpedo's sun entry says, again, Mega Sharpedo, this is its Sun Dex entry, says the spines sprouting from its head are transformed fangs. If they're injured or broken off, the spines will regenerate countless times. And then Mega Sharpedo's Moon entry says, as a consequence of Mega Evolution, its combative instincts exploded. The yellow marks it bears are scars from a long history of battles. So, Mega Sharpedo is one of the Mega Evolutions that talks about great pain being caused to the Pokemon from Mega Evolution, so that's not good for the Pokemon. Sharpedo's sword entry says, as soon as it catches the scent of its prey, Sharpedo will jet seawater from its backside, hurtling toward the target to attack at 75 miles per hour. Again, talking about how fast Sharpedo is, which also helps explain why in Sword and Shield, if you're biking on the sea surrounding the Isle of Armor, the Sharpedo goes straight for you, and it's very hard to escape the Sharpedo unless you find land or time your Rotom boosts correctly. One more Dex entry for Sharpedo. It's Sharpedo's Shield entry says this Pokemon is known as the Bully of the Sea. Any ship entering the water Sharpedo calls home will be attacked. No exceptions. So, when you put all the evidence together, like all the Dex entries together, you kind of get the idea you don't want to be in a boat with a Sharpedo because it'll try to kill you. So, don't go in the water with a Sharpedo. If it's known to have Sharpedo, don't go in the water because that won't end well. Okay, so my number 4 was Sharpedo. My number 3, another... I know this Pokemon's in Hoenn. I'm just want to double check, so... Yep, another Hoenn Pokemon. I have Mightyena. Mightyena evolves from Poochyena, starting at level 18. Quick side note, Poochyena is the Pokemon that's attacking Professor Birch. I hope I'm not getting my professors wrong or mixed up. If I am, please let me know. Feel free to let me know. So anyway, Poochyena is what's attacking Professor Birch when you first start up Sapphire, Ruby, or Emerald, or even Alpha Sapphire, Omega Ruby or Alpha Sapphire. So anyway, yeah, Mightyena, number 3. It's pure Dark type. So I'm gonna read a couple of Dex entries now. Mightyena's Omega Ruby Dex entry says, Mightyena gives obvious signals when it is preparing to attack. It starts to growl deeply and then flattens its body. This Pokemon will bite savagely with its sharply pointed fangs. So probably don't want to mess with Mightyena. So, and then also Mightyena's Alpha Sapphire Dex entry says Mightyena travel and act as a pack in the wild. The memory of its life in the wild compels the Pokemon to obey only those trainers that it recognizes to possess superior skill. And then Mightyena's Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl Dex entry says it chases down prey in a pack. It will never disobey the commands of a skilled trainer. So, if you got good skills, then you shouldn't have issues. Mightyena's Sapphire Dex entry says Mightyena travel and act as a pack in the wild. The memory of its life in the wild compels the trainer. The memory of its life in the wild compels the Pokemon to obey only those trainers that it recognizes to possess superior superior skill. So again, talking about how you have to be very skilled for the Pokemon to like you. And with that, my number 3 was Mightyena, and I'll see you all after the break. Bye! And with that, we're back from the break. So again, my number 3 was Mightyena. So my number 2, I'm sure you're probably thinking it's going to be another Hoenn Pokemon. Because my number 5, number 4, number 3 were all Hoenn Pokemon. So I'm sure you're thinking, she's probably going to pick another Hoenn Pokemon. Well, actually, I don't have. My number 2 is not a Hoenn Pokemon. It is actually an Alolan Pokemon. If that gives you a hint at all, my number 2 is Incineroar. So, Incineroar, its fire dark type is a little controversial, I feel like. Because Incineroar looks like it could be a fire fighting type. And it is based off of Mexican wrestlers, I believe. I'm pretty sure. So, one thing the reason I feel like Game Freak did not make Incineroar a fire fighting type was because of how many fire fighting types they had before. I'm glad it's a fire dark type and not a fire fighting type, because if it was a fire fighting type, it couldn't be on this list. So that's nice. But I feel like Game Freak didn't want to have another fire fighting type, and they thought they would get a lot of criticism if they put another fire fighting type. So they put fire dark type, and I feel Incineroar could easily be a fire fighting type. And I'm pretty sure Game Freak received some criticism for making it a fire dark type instead of a fire fighting type when it could easily be a fire fighting type. So, anyway, and then another thing. Is, so, Incineroar also is in Smash Ultimate. So that's pretty cool. I like playing as him in Smash Ultimate. Incineroar evolves from Torracat starting at level 34. Incineroar is the final form of Litten, so that's cool. It's a starter. It's the only starter on my top 5, actually. So anyway, Incineroar, number 2, fire dark type. Incineroar's Sun Dex entry says this Pokemon has a violent, selfish disposition. If it's not in the mood to listen, it will ignore its trainer's orders with complete nonchalance. Incineroar's Ultra Moon entry says when its fighting spirit is set alight, the flames around its waist become especially intense. And then Incineroar's Sword entry says it excels at violent, no-holds-barred battles. The temperature of the flames that issue from its navel exceed 3,600 degrees Fahrenheit, or 1,982.2 degrees Celsius. So roughly 1,982.2 degrees Celsius. So don't touch Incineroar's navel. I don't know why you would want to, but just don't do it, because you'll get burned to a crisp if you do it. It's very hot. It'll cook you alive. Don't do it. So, my number 1 is Umbreon. So, Umbreon first appeared in the Johto region alongside Espeon. Umbreon evolves from... Umbreon evolves from Eevee when leveled up with High Friendship during the night. If you level Eevee up with High Friendship during the day, it'll evolve into an Espeon, which is a Psychic type. And then in Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, which I have not played, Eevee evolves into Umbreon by using, if leveled up with High Friendship, and a Moonshard in the bag. So that's cool. Umbreon's Crystal entry says on the night of a full moon or when it gets excited, the ring patterns on its body glow yellow. And then also Umbreon, let me just say this now, has one of the coolest shinies, in my opinion. How they changed the yellow rings into blue rings. I very much like it. Umbreon's Ruby Sapphire Dex entry says Umbreon evolved as a result of exposure to the moon's waves. It hides silently in darkness and waits for its foes to make a move. The rings on its body glow when it leaps to attack. So, this Dex entry talks more about how the moon influenced Umbreon's evolution. Well, Eevee's evolution into Umbreon. And then also Diamond and Pearl, its Dex entry for Umbreon, talking again about the moon, says the light of the moon changed Eevee's genetic structure. It lurks in darkness for prey. One thing I really like too about Umbreon is that it's one of the Pokemon that requires High Friendship to evolve. I really like that about it. And then a bunch of the other ones just talk again about its body glowing and rings glowing. Ooh, Legends Arceus. This is the first Pokemon I have on this list that has a Legends Arceus Dex entry. So I'm going to read that because, let me just say this now, some of the Legends Arceus Dex entries are pretty cool. Part of the reason they're super cool is because they're the original Dex entries. And it's the professor, totally blanking on his name right now. Feel free to let me know what his name is. I'll probably look it up too. So, Legends Arceus Umbreon's entry in it says, it is most active in the wee hours of the night when moonlight bathes the land. Its large eyes can pierce the darkness and perceive prey with absolute clarity. So that's pretty cool. Again, talking about how night and moonlight and all that influences Umbreon. So, my top 5 were, going from bottom to top. My number 5 was Absol. My number 4 was Sharpedo. My number 3 was Mightyena. My number 2 was Incineroar. And my number 1 was Umbreon. Quickly, Umbreon's typing is pure dark type. So, with that, I'm going to jump into my honorable mentions, which I have a good amount of honorable mentions. My first honorable mention I have is Hisuian, a Hisuian form, and that is Hisuian form Samurott. Normal Samurott, just a water type, but Hisuian Samurott is a water dark type. Hisuian Samurott, very much like the design. I really like how they made the helmet black to talk about the dark type, and then the purple, pinkish streaks on it. I also like how they did the beard with it, and continue to give it that samurai influence. So, Hisuian Samurott's Legends Arceus Dex entry, because there's only one Dex entry for it. Hard of heart and deft of blade. This rare form of Samurott is a product of the Pokemon's evolution in the region of Hisui. Its turbulent blows crash into foes like ceaseless pounding waves. So, one thing you'll find with some of the special Hisuian form evolutions, where it's still the same Pokemon and then it just has an added evolution or whatever. It'll talk about how the weather, the environment influenced its evolution into the Hisuian form. So one of my honorable mentions is Hisuian Samurott. Another Hisuian form I have as an honorable mention, well, this isn't the actual Hisuian form, but it's only in the Hisui region. Overquill, which is a dark poison type. I really like its design. I think it looks really cool. Hisuian Overquill evolves, which some of the Hisuian types have some interesting ways of evolving. So Overquill evolves from Hisuian Quillfish after using Bar Barrage and Strong Style at least 20 times. So if you're like, I really want that Overquill, well, now you know. You have to use Bar Barrage and Strong Style at least 20 times. Quickly, I'm going to Hisuian Samurott, how you evolve it into so Samurott evolves from Duat starting at level 36. It is the final form of Oshawa in the Hisui region. So level 36, you can evolve. It'll give you the option to evolve your. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking, and I just said it too. You can evolve your Duat into a Samurott at level 36. So then Overquill has a very interesting evolution way of evolving, which is you have to use Bar Barrage and Strong Style at least 20 times. So its dex entry says its lance-like spikes and savage temperament have earned it the nickname Seafind. It slurps up poison to nourish itself. So that's interesting that it drinks poison. Also, Overquill, I find it interesting how they made it a dark poison type, which I kind of understand why they didn't make it a water dark type since they were doing Hisui and Samurott. They didn't want to have two different water dark types. I do like the design of Overquill too. I like how they have the poison dripping off of it, like leaking off of it. So, I have another special form. This, though, is not a Hisuian form. It is the Alolan form of Rattata. I do not like I don't like Alolan Raticate too much, but I do like Alolan Rattata. Rattata. I probably am butchering the name, but so Alolan Rattata, its Ultramoon entry says, night after night, they sneak into people's homes seeking food. A massive outbreak of them has become an issue of public concern. I also really like how Alolan Rattata looks French. I personally think it looks French. Like it has the little mustache. So, and then Alolan Rattata's moon entry says, when the sun goes down, it becomes active. It runs around town on a chase for good food for the boss of its nest, Raticate. Which, again, I don't really mind Alolan Raticate. So, Alolan Rattata is also a dark normal type, which is interesting. It has 4 times weakness to fighting type, so that's probably not doing too well for it. So, my next honorable mention is a mythical. So it's Darkrai, which I'm going to try. Darkrai, I think, is pure. Yeah. Darkrai is pure dark type. It's known as the pitch black Pokemon. It also, I'm pretty sure, is known to cause nightmares. So that's fun. But so Darkrai's Diamond entry says it can lull people to sleep and make them dream. It is active during nights of the new moon. So it's also the new moon Pokemon. So Darkrai first appeared in the Sinnoh region, so that's cool. Although there's for special variants, so they only evolve in their only are found in their certain regions. And then we have Darkrai's Pearl Dex entry, which is folklore has it that on moonless nights, this Pokemon will make people see horrific nightmares, which again is talking about what I was saying about how Darkrai is also known as the Nightmare Pokemon, because it's known to cause nightmares. My next Pokemon is not necessarily I don't know if I would consider it a mythical, because, I don't know. It's kind of a mythical, kind of not a mythical, but anyway, I'll let you guys decide. You know what? You tell me what you think. If you think single strike style Urshifu is a mythical, or just Urshifu in general and Cubfu are mythical or legendary, or neither, just a Pokemon that you have to do the special stuff for. Endangered Pokemon. So, single strike style Urshifu is a fighting dark type. It's only found in the Galar region. It has a Gigantamax form. So, actually, I just realized Urshifu is the only dark type Pokemon I have that has a Gigantamax form, whether honorable mention or not. So, single strike style, its sword entry says, this form of Urshifu is a strong believer in the one-hit KO, or an OKO. Its strategy is to leap in close to foes and land a devastating blow with a hardened fist. Urshifu single strike style shield dex entry says, inhabiting the mountains of a distant region, this Pokemon races across sheer cliffs, training its legs and refining its moves. Gigantamax single strike style Urshifu says, people call it the embodiment of rage. It said that this Pokemon's terrifying expression and shout will rid the world of malevolence. Urshifu, and then its shield entries, Gigantamax entry says, its shield, entry for Gigantamax form is the energy released by this Pokemon's fists form shockwaves that can blow away Dynamax Pokemon in just one hit. So, don't mess with single strike Urshifu, basically. And I have one more special honorable mention. Well, actually two. So, Morpeko, which is an electric dark type, which it has its full belly mode and hangry mode, which it constantly alters between. It was introduced in the Galar region, however you want to pronounce it. So, full belly sword entry says full belly mode sword entry says as it eats the seeds stored up in its pocket-like pouches, this Pokemon is not just satisfying its constant hunger, it's also generating electricity. And then its hangry mode sword entry says intense hunger drives it to extremes of violence, and the electricity in its cheek sacs has converted into a dark type energy. So, full belly mode, Morpeko. Morpeko, I'm pretty sure, is a Pikachu clone, honestly. So, Morpeko's full belly mode looks electric type, and then hangry mode definitely looks like a dark type. So, now we have my final honorable mention, which is a legendary, which I didn't think I should have a legendary on my actual top 5, because it's a legendary. Anyway, so, Yveltal, which, tell me how you think it should be pronounced. I'm going to say Yveltal, which is the Y legendary. It's a dark flying type. It's the Pokemon of Destruction. Again, first appeared in the Kalos region because it's the legendary of it. So, Yveltal says, when this legendary Pokemon's wings and tail feathers spread wide and glow red, it absorbs the life force of living creatures. And then its Y entry says, when its life comes to an end, it absorbs the life energy of every living thing and turns into a cocoon once more. So, it's dangerous. It's a legendary. It's the destruction Pokemon. Another thing I've heard and read is that if Yveltal were to die, everything would die because you need the balance. So that's interesting. And with that, that was my final honorable mention. Again, my top 5 was number 5, Absol, number 4, Sharpedo, number 3, Mightyena, number 2, Incineroar, number 1, Umbreon. Feel free to leave a review or just a rating on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Feel free to leave a comment on YouTube or subscribe on YouTube. Helps out a ton. Also, please feel free to leave listener feedback because I really do appreciate reading it. Also, feel free to send me an email at thegamergirlpodcast@gmail.com. And with that, I'll see you all next episode.